Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, but the mic is just getting warmed up. Welcome to the Hockey Writers, Inc. The press box might be closed, but we just welcomed in the voice of the Philadelphia Flyers from NBC Sports Philadelphia, Jim Jackson. Training camp is soon about to start, and we get a stoppage in play after a great glove save from Lance, and Jim Jackson, Steele, and Lance talk Flyers hockey on the show this week.
Hi, welcome back to Hockey Writers, Inc. This very special episode indeed. I'm your host, Lance Green.
And I'm your co-host, Steele Flyers. And boy, oh boy, have we got a special guest for you. How about that, folks? The voice of the Philadelphia Flyers is sitting in with us tonight. Welcome, Jim. Welcome.
Great to be here, guys. Let's talk some hockey. I'm ready.
Oh, boy.
We're more than ready to talk some hockey.
We are definitely going to get into some hockey, boy, that's for sure, because let's look at the calendar here, and we got some hockey coming up here real shortly, I imagine. Yeah.
We do. Indeed.
For sure.
In fact, training camp in a couple days, and then before you know it, games that count. So
that's right.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Almost there. I think we're, Simone Gagne days away? Or something like that now, right? We'll take that, whatever. First of all, though, Lance, hey, buddy, 9 straight weeks in a row, buddy, Bleacher Reports. Yeah. Congratulations, my man.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, my. How about this, folks? We would like to welcome our very, very special guest on the show. That's right, folks. The voice of the Philadelphia Flyers from NBC Sports Philadelphia, Jim Jackson, is here to talk Philadelphia Flyers hockey. Hope your family had a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Certainly did. Same to you guys. And, it was a little more quiet, perhaps, than the normal Christmas and New Year, but still managed to have some fun and hoping for a much better 21 than 20, that's for sure.
Yeah, with news of a hockey season, I think that makes everybody I think we're all way more than ready to go here for hockey. That's for sure.
Yeah, some sort of normalcy for sure.
Exactly, for sure. Jim, I'll tell you what, it's a privilege to have you on the show. So what have you been doing this long break? We haven't heard much. So what have you been doing for this long break here now since the end of the season, and now we're going to soon start having games here? What have you been up to?
Well, it's strange if you think about it. The Flyers season ended in early September, and so we're getting going now in January. That's a little longer than a normal off season. It's not all that much longer, but it is a little longer. It's just different months, right? We're usually off May, June, July, August, and this time instead it was most of September, October, November, December. But given that, I haven't had an off season really doing baseball and hockey for a long time. I've now had, with the first pandemic, or the first part of the pandemic, at least in March and April, and then May, and then June. And now this break, I've almost had 2 off seasons in the same calendar year, which has been really strange for me. But one thing that I like to do throughout my career is to talk to people who are getting into the business of broadcasting. And I do it with a phone call here or there if they reached out to me. But I figured now, having extra time with the pandemic, and I'm no longer doing the Phillies, so moving forward, the summertime, I figured I would kind of organize it and make it more than just a phone call, and make it into some Zoom sessions now that we have that available to us as well, and really mentor these kids. So we developed JJ Broadcasting Coaching, and really having fun with it. You're one of the prized pupils, Steel Flyers.
One of the kids. Yeah, one of the kids.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he's the dean. He's the dean of my students.
Oh, brother. Well, if you can't tell, we got a special little graphic here to show the folks here exactly what you're talking about here, about the school that you started during that little bit of the off season there. And I was very privileged to be able to go through that school. And
indeed.
I
aced it.
Well, I had to tell you, if you're looking to get into broadcasting, you can't help but to learn from an Emmy Award winning broadcaster than Jim Jackson. And if that's not enough of an endorsement for you, brother, I don't know what it is, my man, because it was a good school. It's learning from the best, and the best part about it is that it wasn't pretentious, it wasn't over the top, it was just straightforward, and that's the best part about it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Well, yeah, I tried to make it conversational as opposed to me just giving a speech. And certain students slash clients, as you know, Steel Flowers, I'm still having difficulty coming up with a term for the people who take part in this, because it's tough to call all of them students. It's tough to call any of them clients because that seems businesslike. But anyhow, you know what I'm saying. What's been fun about it is there's been a variety. There's been people who are in high school. There's been people in college. There's been some guys in their 30s who are just getting into it. There's you who's doing this great venture and getting things up and running. There's people who want to be sideline reporters, want to be play-by-play announcers, want to be podcasters, want to be sports studio anchors. So it's a wide variety, and I've had a lot of fun getting to know them, and then obviously moving forward and trying to teach them just certain basic fundamentals. And it's also the beginning of the relationship. It's not just 2 or 3 sessions and we're done. I feel like I'll be someone they can lean upon as they move ahead in their careers moving forward. So it's really been good. I mean, we had an unbelievable response to the first wave. I've been doing lots and lots and lots of Zooms through November and December, and now as the season approaches, I'm going to have to cut back a little, but I still want to continue doing it during the season. And for anybody who's interested, you go to jjbroadcastingcoaching@gmail.com. You just send an email to that address with a little background information on yourself, and we'll get you some information and see if we can set up some times to do it.
yeah.
What a great opportunity there for everybody.
For sure. And listen, we'll make sure I have the graphic up there that has the email address on there, and then we'll make sure that we put that down in the description, folks, so that you guys can get the email there, so you can make sure you get signed up for the school for sure. That's one thing that I can definitely tell you. We'll put there on the website for you and get that out there for you. Really thought that this was a great opportunity and a great chance for people that are looking to get into broadcasting to do to get a structured set of lessons from somebody who's been doing for a very, very long time. And I think it's a great idea, and just what can you say when you learn from somebody that's the best? You know what I mean?
You don't overpromise now here, Steel Flowers.
Well,
the best just retired, Mike Emmerich, and yeah, it's been fun. I mean, again, what the thing I've liked about it the most is just learning other people's stories and seeing where maybe I could help. And so it's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking to continue to do it, as I said, throughout the season, and then ramp it back up in the summertime again, where I can do several sessions a day, and then just see where it goes.
That's awesome. Well, I would like to be able to, maybe if we could send some people, like maybe try to offer some folks, maybe, I don't know, well, who knows? But I could honestly suggest everybody to check this out if you definitely want to get into this broadcasting. Great way to learn, great structured environment, especially the one-on-ones gives you the opportunity to speak directly to you and be able to ask you direct questions with direct answers and direct one-on-one. So that's something that you can't, that's a hard to put a price tag on that, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it is one-on-one, and that's we did offer some group sessions, but almost everyone wanted one-on-ones. So I ended up doing a lot of one-on-ones, and I ended up liking that better. We may try to put together some group sessions in the summer for younger students because they basically, if they're in high school or even middle school, they kind of have the same parameters where they're just getting started, so we could address all of them at once. But the one-on-one nature of it is really good, and I like it because it's just like having a conversation. And I'm kind of gaining new friends and trying to, I want to be sitting back in about 20, 25 years in my rocking chair or recliner or whatever I'm going to be in and want to see some of these people on my television. So I'm looking forward to that day, and hopefully we're on our way to that.
Well, hopefully it's not that long from now that you get to see some of us on TV.
Yeah, I know. Well, 20, 25 years from now is when I feel like I'll be in my rocking chair. It might be 5 years. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely not
Any
getting
more
any
years
younger.
like 2020, and it might be 5 years. It might be 3 years.
Yeah.
For sure. Jim, look, one of the main reasons why we had you and we're so honored to have you on this pokey little hockey show is because we talk about all things Flyers hockey here. And this is exactly what is the main reason why we have Lance is the host of the show and why but the whole premise of this show is to talk about Flyers hockey. And have you had a chance to watch any of the World Juniors?
I have watched a lot of it, especially Team USA, obviously, because 2 Flyers prospects are on that team. I've caught Sweden as much as possible, too, with the defenseman Emil Andre on that team. But I've watched a lot of the other games, too. Really been impressed with the young talent that's going to be entering the NHL. I'm really interested to see with the different time, because usually this tournament obviously is in the middle of the NHL season, with it ahead of it. I have a funny feeling we're going to see a lot of these players in the NHL this year. Maybe more so than the normal season, just because all the scouts and coaches are watching these games, and maybe not they're watching, obviously, but they're watching on television. And how could some of these Detroit Red Wing prospects not at least get a shot?
Yeah,
That team has openings,
Yeah.
and they look good. And how can Zegras not get a shot with Anaheim? I don't know. He might not.
Yeah.
Some of these
Lights
guys go back
out.
to
Lights
college.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just been great. As far as the Flyer prospects, thoroughly impressed with the 2 USA prospects. Cam York, I've only had a chance up until this tournament to see him play here and there. I've gotten all kinds of great reports on him, but I never really got a chance to see him play full games, just highlights and so forth. Highlights don't give you much. I've really been impressed. He's so calm. He's so poised. A really deceptively good skater, smart. His hockey IQ is obviously off the charts. I'm not going to put pressure on him. I'm not a huge believer in comps, but I'm going to throw it out at you anyhow. I think he's got Chemo Timonen kind of potential in that he can run a power play, but he can also be out there when you're up a goal trying to defend. He's a two-way defenseman, and he's kind of a guy who you won't necessarily notice. He's not going to dazzle you with spectacular plays, maybe, but he's going to be productive, and he's going to be solid and steady and smart. So I think he's going to be an NHL player. I really do, and a good one. Bobby Brink, you got to love his junkyard mentality around the net. I mean, he always goes to the blue paint. Not the biggest guy, but he gets there. Got both of his goals, obviously, in the one game by just going to the blue and scoring. He's also shown the ability to make some pretty good moves. He's got a real deceptive cut to the middle and cut to the outside. He's kind of guy seems to be kind of floating along, and then all of a sudden he darts. And maybe not at least he hasn't shown it in this tournament a huge shot or anything, but there's certainly production potential there. With him, of course, the question is size. He's not a real big guy. Can he handle the checking at the NHL level? But got to give him a shot at least, because he is a guy who's showing that he'll go to the net. Andre for Sweden has looked a little overmatched to me. I think at times against teams like Austria, he looks good. But against the better teams, he looks tentative. And he's 18. I mean, I think this is a guy who will probably be back there next year. We'll see. And be maybe one of the veteran defensemen, because he'll be 19, ready to turn 20 next year. But he is a guy who, of the 3 prospects, I think has struggled the most. He's had some big-time turnover issues. Had one in today's game where he just kind of let the puck go out from behind the net. I don't know what he had in mind. But the scouting reports on him are that he moves the puck really well. So I think he's just been a little tentative. He's obviously got some huge, really good prospects playing in front of him on that Swedish team. And so he wasn't going to get a ton of ice time. And that's tough on a guy who's used to getting ice time to all of a sudden not be seeing a lot of it. So maybe he's just not in any kind of rhythm. But that's basically my synopsis of the 3 Flyer prospects. The 2 U.S. prospects have played very well.
Yeah, definitely. I can attest to everything you just said, Jim. Cam York, especially. I think he has grown immensely since being drafted. Over his first year with Michigan, he struggled a little bit jumping into that play, and he took it in stride. And over the course of the summer, he hit the gym a lot. He
Yeah.
got bigger, stronger, faster, and it really showed a good sign of maturity along with that. And took on more of a leadership role while there in Michigan. So that, of course, being gifted the C by his fellow teammates of Team USA has them saying volumes about the same thing that Michigan was preaching about him. Every other point that you made about him is just amazing. That step up that he's made in that year's time span, or this past off season, is immense. As far as Bobby Brink, I think he struggled the first game or so in the World Juniors, but he has since caught his stride. And very elusive player for his size. I think he has to be darting in and out and just disappearing on the ice, and then all of a sudden he's sitting in front of the net picking up those type goals that he did. Is great to see him get going. As far as Emil for Team Sweden, it's kind of been a big jump for him this season. In the SHL, he's kind of struggled like he has at times in this World Juniors. Now playing with essentially men in the SHL, where he was in the Swedish junior leagues prior, it's going to take a little bit longer, I think, for him. And as a second round pick, you want to see him get going a little bit quicker, but the Flyers have plenty of depth there. They can have time for him to take that time to build his play and not have to rush him along like if he was in some other spots in the Flyers organization. So hopefully he continues to grow and hopefully he settles in. I think he's a little nervous out there, and just a great puck moving. He can dance along that blue line and cycle that puck so well, and hopefully he can do that throughout the rest of this tournament and throughout the rest of this season in the SHL.
Yeah, I think that's all really, really great points there, especially with Cam York being able to get elected captain of the United States team. I think that speaks volumes for him. I really like how Bobby Brink has been playing. He's really stepped into that second power play role and has really stepped up, I think, as far as that's concerned, getting more time, more minutes. Emil Andre, he went from playing, 4 minutes in the first game to 22 minutes in the second game, and then I think cut back a little bit on the third game, and then the game against the Swedes there, or the Finlands, that just, he looked a little bit lost out there. Like he kind of looked like he wasn't, like, wait a minute, and he looked really small compared to a lot of the other guys out there.
Because he is.
Yeah, exactly.
He is small,
that's
man.
what I mean.
So,
we'll have to see how that
when
goes.
you're a undersized defenseman and you're tentative, it's really going to show. I mean, as a big guy, you can maybe simplify your game, become physical, do things like that. But when you're a guy like, he wants to have the puck, be moving the puck, and if you're tentative, it's going to really show. But again, as Lance pointed out, I mean, he's 18. He's going to grow into this role. It's great experience for him.
I agree.
He's got some great players on that Swedish team to kind of follow after. So I'm sure he's learning a lot. It's a good experience for him.
No, I agree.
For sure.
Do you guys think, I'll ask Lance first, do you guys think that if this was a normal year, if we were going into a regular normal camp in September, because Jim, you pointed out earlier that we're playing these World Juniors now instead of when they normally play them. You know what I mean? So do you guys think, I'm going to ask you first, Lance, do you think that if this was a normal year, do you think Cam and Bobby Brink would get an invite to camp?
For sure. They would be there. They would be there just to get in with the team and see what it's all about. I would love for them to show up this season, but or this camp. But I don't know if they'll be there right after World Juniors. Time will tell. I think the invite list came out, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it was official. Earlier today. I don't know if it is official.
I think, Lance, there's quarantine issues and so forth.
Right.
By the time they go through them, I think they have like 3 or 4 negative tests.
Right.
And then by the time you do that, I mean, this is a very short camp. So
yes.
And also, obviously, Cam's a college guy, so
Yeah, both guys are going to be returning back to Denver
college,
and Michigan.
yeah.
I think their season will be picking up right away, and I think they'll just be okay with them doing that. So,
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of great things going on here with the especially with the World Juniors, especially with the folks coming up here. I do think that if this was a normal camp, that Cam and Bobby would both get a an invite. I think you guys both would agree. If this was a normal camp, those guys would both get an invite for sure. But with what you pointed out before, Jim, that the camp's only going to be 41 players, and it's just not going to be enough. And especially with having to go through quarantine and all that other stuff, I mean, that's okay. Well, if they're not going to get an invite to camp, then does that mean if they don't get an invite to camp, does that mean they're not part of the quote unquote Black Aces squad? Do you have to be an invite to camp? Is that how that works?
I don't know if you have to be an invite to camp, but I don't think the plan for either of them is for that. I think they want them to get their experience. Hopefully, the college season does get going and they get their college seasons in. They're getting a great look at Cam York against top competition in this, and Bobby Brink in these World Juniors. So they're getting a good look at them, and then they're going to watch them as they play their college seasons. Flyers, as Lance pointed out, have a ton of depth on D.
Oh yeah.
They've got Igor Zamula, who they probably could play some games in the NHL this year. Mark Friedman's another guy who I think is quite capable of playing. In addition to 7 guys who played 40 games in the NHL last year, so they've got depth on D. And Bobby Brink, as we talked about with Morgan Frost, trying to find a spot for him. There's a lot of depth up front too with this team. And hey, this is a great time in the Flyers organization. I remember maybe 6-7 years ago where there was no depth, and now you're talking about depth and quality depth of young players up and down the lineup, no matter what position you look at. So it's a good problem to have.
yes.
Lance and I have definitely spoken at nauseum about this, that we both very much agree, and we both thank Mr. Ron Hextall for restocking the cupboards. Yeah, you definitely get the salute for that, because exactly with what you said, Jim, he has restocked the shelves to the point where, wow, look at these great prospects coming up. And what really has been really awesome is that it seems like Chuck Fletcher and the new regime that's come in has just kind of taken what Hextall was doing and just kind of tweaked it a little bit, but just kind of kept rolling down that same train. They seem to be picking some of the same types of players that Ron Hextall was picking. You look at Cam York and everybody was like, oh, why did we pick Cam York? Oh, what are you talking about? And now you look at him and he's like, wow, all right, now I understand why we picked Cam York.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people complain not because of who Cam York was, just because another defenseman. But
Yeah,
you can never, in today's NHL, never have enough defensemen, especially puck moving defensemen, is what the game has really evolved into, is a defenseman getting the puck out of the zone and then joining the play, which Cam York is capable of doing. So, I mean, they're drafting as they move along here. You're seeing that they're drafting basically the best player on their board. They've gotten enough depth in their organization. They don't have to draft for a position anymore. They put their board together, and whatever player that they have at the top spot when their pick comes, they're choosing them. And that's, again, a great position to be in. And yes, Ron Hextall deserves much of the credit for that. I do like what Chuck has done since he's taken over, though, in terms of additions. Kevin Hayes, obviously a big one. And also the fact that he's probably a little more willing than Hexie to push the younger players up and give them a chance. Hexie was very particular about getting all these guys time, which I think did serve them well in their development in some cases. But like Carter Hart probably would be maybe a rookie this year under Ron Hextall, would have gotten maybe some games last year.
Right.
I see what you're saying now.
And he's already into his 3rd year the way it's turned out. And obviously that was by necessity 2 years ago. But bottom line is, I think it's turned out to be a good mix. Hexie with some great drafts, and then Chuck now a little more proactive in pushing the players along, adding to the mix, and also making some shrewd moves with the veterans.
Yeah, for sure.
Can't argue with you on that. I really like what they've been trying to put together here. And I think that Although during this offseason, the moves that have been made this offseason, some of them have been a little bit of a head scratcher with the Gustafson move and things of that nature. But for the most part, what Fletcher and this new administration has done is re-signed all of the current players.
For sure. With the signings, he is has me at least biting my nails like when is he going to sign him, but he has proved that his ability to wait and sit back and let them see the market and let them sit there instead of just jumping out and overpaying them. He has signed some amazing deals through last season with Travis Konechny and Provorov to this year with the people that he signed. So good great job, Chuck, and hopefully you can do the same thing next year with Sanheim and Hart.
These are really tough times to be a GM.
Yeah.
You have so many things. The pandemic has caused the cap to go flat, and that's a major problem for a team that has a lot of young players whose contracts, Carter Hart, are going to come up here in the next couple of years. So he's doing it. People are saying they didn't do anything in free agency this year. First of all, they've got tons of young talent. They don't need to do much in free. The team should get better by the progression their young players take. Gustafson, sneaky good move, I think. We'll see. But I think it was a sneaky good move. They gave themselves some insurance in case Ghost just doesn't refine his magic. They're similar players, although everyone I've talked to who's seen Gustafson on a day in, day out basis says that he could be an upgrade in that position. But in terms of what he's doing, he's got to deal with a flat cap, an expansion draft, which is coming up. So there's lots of things to worry about here. And also a lot of players' contracts who they're going to come, whether it's bridge contracts or not, they're going to be more expensive than they are right now. So he needs to keep some room there in order to keep these players happy. I mean, Carter Hart, right foremost among them, but you think about the deal Patrick got. If he has any kind of year this year, he's going to command quite a bit of money.
Right.
And then we can go right down the line. There's several players this year and then next year. And then they're going to have decisions with guys like Giroux and then Sean Couturier, who's certainly going to get a raise. So got to keep some of that money. It's we're all about win now, short term, do it now. I think Chuck's keeping. He's trying to win now for sure, but he's also keeping the future in mind here. He's got to have some money to pay these players.
Yeah, I don't think you want to bring in too many new pieces with this short camp and season to get right underway. We don't really have time to sit and have that players gel. We need to get off to a fresh start and get going right from game one. And I think with the core that's already there and the youth that's only going to get better, I think we'll be okay.
I look for the Flyers to be one of the few teams, because of the lack of turnover that the Flyers have had, where the GM has re-signed all of the current players. So the only really new player that's come in was Gustafson and Pouliot, right? And then we lost Niski, you know what I mean? But for the most part, and he re-signed Myers, he re-signed, you know what I mean? Everybody stayed in-house. So he basically kept most of the same team that was on the ice for the final game of the playoffs last season is going to be pretty much the same team that's going to be hitting the ice at the beginning of the season this year, I feel. And that, I think, with a few upgrades here and there, a few tweaks here and there, obviously, but I think that is going to be the key, especially with other teams that had a lot of turnover and other teams that have had a lot of players that have come in and out of their lineup by trade or by, free agency and things of that nature, where it's because of the shortened camp and because of the fact that we only have so many guys invited to camp and no preseason games, and you're going to have to show up at camp, be ready to go, and then 13th playing games.
Yeah, no preseason games. And really what really works in their favor is the entire coaching staff is back. They'll be in the same system. Blaine Vigneault's already talked about training camp going to be heavy in scrimmages because he's most worried about getting these guys into game shape from a physical standpoint, from a hand standpoint. You got to get your hands back after having the time off. And without games, you got to do it with scrimmages. So they had that luxury because they all know the system already, with the exception of Gustafson. and maybe some other young guys who might crack the lineup in the bottom six or as depth players. So for the most part, everyone should be in sync. Whereas a team that has a new coach, he's going to be trying to implement a system without any preseason games and with only about a week and a half to 2 weeks of camp. That's going to be difficult. So the Flyers should get off to a decent start. It's vital in a 56-game season. The last time there was a shortened season, because that was because of a work stoppage.
Yeah.
Flyers got off to a slow start, and it buried them. They could never climb out of that hole. So I think they're in good shape. You never know, but I think they're in good shape if they can stay healthy to get out of the gate in good shape, and that will put you in a real good position.
Yeah, I think you made the key phrase there was stay healthy.
Yeah.
That's a key word right there, and everybody's been focusing on Nolan Patrick and having him come back, and I think he's going to be a difference maker, and I also think too that Oscar Lindblom is going to be a difference maker. And the reason why I say that is because look at what he did right before he was diagnosed. Look at how well he was playing.
He was leading the team in goals.
Exactly.
At that point.
Right, exactly. And when he came back and he had only been done with chemo for like a month. Well, now he's had an extended off season to get. Look, we all know the chemo is just straight poison. Okay, it is, until you get all that stuff flushed out of your system and everything. And he's had some time now to kind of recover, put a little bit of weight back on, because he looked really skinny when he was out there for the playoffs, when he was out there playing, although he had a lot of energy, but he just kind of looked a little lighter than what he was at the beginning of the year before he was diagnosed. So I really look for Patrick and Lindblom to be difference makers on this team right out of the gates.
I actually am more confident about Oscar than I am Nolan, just because Nolan didn't play for an entire year.
Yeah.
And then some. We're really talking now, right? It's more like a year and a half.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see what he can deliver. Oscar, to me, he ended up out a lot of the time that everybody was out because of the pandemic, got back, got into at least some form of game shape. Yes, he was thinner, but he was able to play in playoff games and certainly not look completely out of place. So he got himself ramped back up. I do agree, Steel Flyers, that he will be in even better shape now for sure with a full camp, or at least what he's a full camp this year. But obviously all this ramp up time he's been skating. And he's just a solid player. I mean, you mentioned, Lance, he was tied for the team leading goals when he was struck down. But bottom line is he's maybe outside of Sean Couturier, their best two-way forward. So when one of your best two-way forwards, really two of your best two-way forwards are among your leading scorers, as Couturier and Lindblom are, that's a real good thing. A lot of people we joked about Dr. Couturier last year. You put somebody up on Couturier's line and they got better.
All of a sudden they get better, yeah.
On the other side. Yeah, Lindblom was on the other side, so it's kind of both of them. And we'll see. How much he can contribute, but I'm pretty confident Oscar will be able to do that. Nolan is much more of a wild card. I'm hearing great reports from people who've seen him, but you don't know until you see him, and even when you see him in scrimmages, does that really count? The 13th we're going to start to see on Nolan Patrick, and can he take the contact? Do any of the symptoms come back? To me, he's much more of a question mark than Oscar. And that's saying something, considering Oscar Lindblom is coming back from a very rare and difficult cancer. But I really am pretty confident in Oscar.
Yeah, I think with Patrick, he, like Lindros when he came back from some concussion issues and everything else, he's going to be a little timid at first out there for sure until he gets a couple of games under his belt and realizes he's taken a couple big hits and he's okay. I think he will be a little timid, and it might take him a little bit longer to get going, especially since he's been off so long.
Exactly. Especially, and that's another thing too, when you have a player who's been out because of an injury and then comes back, and especially something that's connected with his head. So a lot of focus is going to be, okay, can he take that shot? Can he take that hit? Can he withstand that? And everybody's pretty much going to be holding their breath until, he takes that first hit. And if he pops up, okay, cool. But if he doesn't, then everybody's, but I've come back from injuries and played and have been tentative, and I've had a coach yell at me and say, look, you don't want to be that way. You can't be that way because if you are, then you're going to get hurt again and it's going to be worse. He said, you got to go out there and act like nothing's happened, nothing's wrong. So I hope he can come out there and play and like nothing's wrong or anything like that. And
Yeah, I'm sure they have done some battle drills with him. And, now he's got the guy by the name of Samuel Moran to do some battle drills with if he wants along the wall. But it's not the game. A teammate's not going to hit him as hard as an opponent might. But if you're telling a guy to go out there and hit him, he's still getting hit. So he'll at least get a little of that. And the scrimmages will have contact. But you're right. We're really not going to know until the game counts. It's somebody in another jersey and hey, hockey's a tough sport. It doesn't have as much fighting as it used to, but they know Nolan Patrick's situation. He will get tested. And so will Oscar. So they're going to get tested. That just comes with the territory in hockey. Whereas we've gotten rid of, or hockey's kind of fading away from it. There's still intimidation through physical contact and through going after teams' weaknesses, and many times that's a physical weakness. So he'll get tested.
Do you think that's something that's going to be – I mean, you touched on it right there, and I wanted to maybe kind of get into this a little bit. What do you think about that idea of moving Moran? Look, he's coming off of his second ACL. Okay, he's – what, 6'9" on skates?
6'7", yeah. Well,
you know what I mean?
Skates, yeah.
Okay, and we know he's played forward and junior. Okay, Lance, what do you think of this move? I'll go with you first, Lance. What do you think of this move?
Sure, I'm actually working on a piece right now about him. Probably due out in the next couple days. But I think it is an ingenious move by AV. He's the one that sat him down and really asked him if he could potentially do this. And, I think Moran has been battling coming back. He is stayed around, I think, Philly area the whole time, this duration of non-play, and really has been working to come back stronger and better than ever. He's had such bad luck, but I love this kid ever since we drafted him to Philly. And, I just see hopefully this working out. He was a great talent in juniors, even when he was playing defense, pushing the envelope, coming up with a puck and cycling around, taking a shot. He was definitely more offensive minded before he got to Philly, where they already had some offensive defensemen in the mix, and kind of asked him to be more of a stay at home defenseman.
Yeah.
So I think, I just envision this big presence in board battles, guys. I see him standing in front of the net, screaming the heck out of the goalie, anybody but pretty much Ben Bishop in mind. And just being that policeman that Steele, we have talked about to nauseum at meeting. The team needs that guy. Yes, as Jim pointed out, the game has changed a little bit, but we still have the Tom Wilsons of the world out there, and Nolan Patrick and everybody else, Lindblom and some of these other players are going to need a presence like that to step up and
Exactly.
fight for them if need be, if somebody lays a dirty hit. And you saw that throughout the playoffs with Raffle taking a dirty hit and
Provorov getting run into,
getting run on, Provorov getting run onto, and people during the regular season, I think Stamkos even slew-footed Giroux before a face-off, and nobody did anything about it. So I just see that presence being needed, and Moran can certainly handle that. And of course, I alluded to them needing that in a previous article this week. So, and then the team came out and announced that he would be moving to winger. So
yeah. I mean, two things on this. One is, you point out, Lance, the need is there. They do not have a lot of physicality up front, this team. So they really don't have a lot of physicality anywhere
at all.
Thank you.
I mean, they have some guys in Robert Hagel hit, and Proville hit when he has to, and Braun. But I mean, these are not. So even on the blue line, they're not tremendously physical. But up front, where you can be proactive with your physicality, they just don't have a lot of it. Nick Obey-Cubell stood out like a sore thumb at times because he did get in and was very physical. He's not the kind of guy who's going to intimidate you with huge size or anything like that, but he's physical. He finishes his checks. They need a little more of that. And in Sam, you have a guy who, if he does that, if he finishes checks like that, it's going to be quite intimidating. He's watching video of Matt Martin. That's a really good guy to follow.
Yes, he is.
He's the guy who knows his role. And Sam's got some hands on him. He can score if he gets in front of the net. And when I first heard this, I'll be honest, I thought square peg, round hole. My very first reaction to this when I was told. But then the more I thought about it, it's to me, the need is there. And where's Sam going to play? If you look at the Flyers blue line right now, they have 7, as we mentioned earlier, 7 defensemen who played 40 games in the NHL last year. So they already have their top 7. And then they have Mark Friedman. And then they have Igor Zamula. And then looking down the road, they have Cam York. And they have Wyatt Wiley. They have Marcin. They have Millman, even. He's a guy who they really
just signed,
prospects that I just didn't see a spot for Sam. And everybody who's around Sam Morin loves him. He's just a hardworking kid, always a smile on his face, and he's had nothing but bad luck physically. So here's his best chance to make it in the NHL. And here's a need for the team. So the more I thought about it, the more I said this, and it's out of the box, no doubt about it. This guy hasn't played forward. You said, Steele, that he was in junior, but that was his very first 2 years of. He was very young when he played. It's been a long time. He's been a defenseman for a long time. So it's going to be an adjustment for him, and he's not going to get any preseason games. He's going to have to step right in. Maybe he'll get it at the AHL level. We'll see. But bottom line is there is a need. He's probably not going to fit anywhere else in the team. You don't want to just say goodbye to this kid who's given his heart and soul to coming back from not 1 but 2 knee surgeries. So let's give him a shot.
Yeah, I like the idea. And Lance and I have talked about this so much about the need for a policeman because of exactly with what happened in the playoffs, that we got run into by the Montreal and we got run into by the Islanders. Yeah. Okay. We got out physicaled by both teams. Okay. And both of those teams took runs at our star players and there was no repercussions at all whatsoever. And I'm not looking for guys that, are dragging knuckles. Okay. We're not looking for that. We know that this is not goons. We know this is not Broad Street hockey anymore. Look, I get it.
Sadly.
Yeah. Okay. Look, we're all in that same boat. We all would love to see more of that, but I like the idea of having a player out there who is that menacing presence, like a Chris Pronger. When Chris Pronger was on the ice, you did nothing out of sorts because if you did, what happened? Chris Pronger would take your freaking head off.
Darian Hatcher, yeah.
Another one, Darian Hatcher. When Hatcher was on the ice, you did nothing because he was coming to take your head off.
Yeah, but in both those cases, still, you're talking about defensemen.
Right.
What you do here is you can put a player out as a forward, as they are planning and hoping to do with Morant, and you as a fourth line guy, you can go out there and do that. You don't necessarily want to subject. If you put a defenseman out there that you think is a liability, and I'm not saying Sam was a liability. I think he had a chance as a defenseman too. But if you're putting your quote-unquote policeman out there in defense, your team could pay for that in a big way. As a forward, you've got your defense and your goaltender behind you, so you got another line of defense. I think it's easier to be the policeman. I don't know as if that term is used anymore, but that physical presence you're talking about, it's easier to do that as a forward. You can be more proactive, as Tom Wilson is, as Matt Martin is, as Josh Anderson is, handsomely for being that kind of presence.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure he's that, but he got himself a huge contract. There's not that many of them, but there are some of these forwards in the NHL who are physical and known for their physicality primarily. And so we'll see if Sam, it's going to be a tremendous adjustment for him, and he doesn't have much time to do it. So we'll see how it goes, but I definitely think it's a worthy experiment.
I agree. That's what I was saying. I was agreeing with it completely. I just think that it's going to be I just like the idea of having somebody out there on the ice who's not a defenseman, who is a forward, who is going to be able to be that presence out there so that we don't have to take that hit on D. You know what I mean? That's why I'm saying that by moving him up as a D man and playing the wing, and quite honestly, I would really like to see him play with Lawton. I think that might be a pretty snappy little line back there, maybe even with Raffle or depending on whoever else, that might not be a bad little line right there.
Yeah, there's so much depth on the team, like Jim said. But can you imagine just a dump and chase situation, and then you being that defenseman that has to go fish the puck out of the boards, and have Sam Moran
Comes the
come in and just,
train.
yeah, oof,
I would not want to be the guy on the other end of that.
no.
No, he might be getting the old move where the defenseman goes hard and then pulls away from the puck and then tries to check it away from Sam after the fact, because
Yeah.
you don't want to go face to glass with him coming down on you. And you know, it's going to be interesting to see if he can even learn that aspect of it. He's so used to being on the other side of that, to being now the person who's going after the defenseman. You know, the potential exists for Sam to hurt some people too, because he's not used to doing that.
Yeah.
So again, I don't think you're going to see him on the fourth line opening night. I think this is a process. He's got to get some experience. Who knows? Maybe he just wows everybody in this training camp, and there he is. But I think for the most part, this is a process. It's going to take a little while. He's also still coming back from a second knee surgery. They got to make sure that he's got everything good there. We'll see how it goes. But again, a worthy experiment for sure, and could add an element that the Flyers were missing last year.
We both agree. We definitely feel that this is something that the Flyers was missing big time throughout the entire. I mean, that's why we felt that like Thompson was brought in, and Grant were brought in. We felt that they were more of those type of players that could be, those guys. Yeah, those physical type of players, and be those type of players and play that kind of role, and they just didn't. Okay. And those guys aren't there anymore now. And we are missing that kind of thing too. So I think it adds a little bit more depth to, and I like it. And I agree. I think it's going to be a real interesting experiment. That's for sure. I don't even know what to say. This has been an amazing show. Gosh, Jim, we could probably sit here and talk for 3-4 hours, maybe. What do you think?
We've gone pretty long now. I think training camp starts in about a half hour.
A half an hour? Yeah, right. Oh, man.
I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind going right from where I am now to going over to the escape zone and watching the first skate. But that'll be in a couple of days.
Hopefully.
And I can't wait. And, one of the things about this training camp, it's only 41 players, but they still have guys that I would really want to see. I mentioned Tanner Lisinski a little earlier. I also want to see Wade Allison. I want to see the first-round pick from this year, Tyson Forster. Jade Wisdom was a late add.
Yes.
He's such a great story. I can't wait to see him. He plays with so much energy. He's probably going to be flying out there. And then they're going to have a scrimmage at the end of camp on the Sunday, which the plans are right now for us to broadcast that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, wow.
But, I mean, we could, just to see some of these young players, they're not going to make the team, I don't think, right out of camp. The good thing is I think AV has a pretty good idea who his players are going to be. Although with the expanded roster, they may be some of the extras. But I'm really looking forward to seeing these guys, because Wade Allison, it seems like we've been hearing about him for quite a while. Same with Lisinski, right? They were in college for the full ride. And so I think these are guys who at 23, maybe a little time in the AHL once that kicks up in February. But they could be guys that are coming up, because of injuries or whatever as this season goes along. And then on D, same thing. Wiley's the guy I want to see a little bit of. I've heard so much about him. So this camp, even though it's short, we're still going to see the youth in the future. We're going to see the present. All eyes will be on Nolan Patrick, I'm sure. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Just great to see the guys out on the ice again.
Lance, who do you think about coming up for this training camp? Who are some of the players you'd like to check out, or who you'd like to see? Kind of what do you think about that?
Sure. I want to see Tyson. I want to see Forrester out there, see what he can really do, playing against, the guys of the NHL ranks. I like Wisdom. I like that pick there. Didn't really know a whole lot about him and kind of passed over him when I was doing my draft research, but the Flyers seem very high on him, especially to sign him already. Says a lot to what they think of him. I want to see Gustafsson. I want to see why Chuck signed yet another left-hand defenseman. What was so special about him? I know he had some great years with Chicago, and I want to see if he can be that person to fill in like they're hoping he can be. So there's a lot of talent, like Jim said, and a short time to kind of view them all. But I hope maybe we get a guy or two that surprises somebody, like Cam York has surprised me this so far with the World Juniors with his development. Hopefully, a lot of these kids have taken this time away from the ice with all the pandemic going on and really worked on their own skills that they were lacking in, and it could come in and just surprise us. So it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be short. But I'm so excited to see Flyers hockey yet again, and to have Jim back up in the booth calling it. So
oh boy, I'll tell you what.
I'm actually hearing I'm going to be in the stands calling the games.
Oh wow!
Oh well, hey.
Well, until they hopefully it'd be awesome if as the season progresses they can start having some fans come in.
Right.
To start no fans, so they've put us in a broadcast location right where Mark Zumoff calls the Sixers.
Oh wow!
Kind of the top of the first deck. Which is going to be nice and close for me. I'm going to like
I was going to say, you used to be way up in the nose.
That's much closer.
Yes, much closer. I'll get spoiled,
sure.
and then I'll be back up in the booth. But it's going to be fun just to call a game in person. We're calling the road games off a monitor as we called all the games from the bubble. And hey, I'll call any game. It's hockey, so it's great, but it's going to be fun to actually be in person. Then the next step, of course, get some fans. We've got to get the Flyer fans back in that building. And hopefully, with the vaccines out now, we'll work in that direction. And maybe by the playoffs, there will be fans in the buildings. That would be awesome.
And hopefully, the Flyers will make it past the first or second round. But
got to get in first.
Got to get in first. And getting in first,
no cakewalk. No
cakewalk,
Steele. You look at this division. I think the Rangers are a playoff team. So if the Rangers are a playoff team and Boston's a playoff team, and I really think Laviolette could have a really good impact in Washington too. Now you're talking Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
that's 4. So one of those teams can't make the playoffs.
Okay, I'll tell you what. We did a divisional show where we kind of
the Islanders. I didn't even mention the Islanders.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah. So, I have the Islanders ahead. I think I have the Islanders finishing in the top 4, along with Philadelphia. Maybe the Rangers sneak in. Maybe. You know what I mean?
So Boston or Pittsburgh.
Boston, I have in there.
I think Pittsburgh's getting a little long in the tooth there.
Yeah. I do not have them making the playoffs.
Yeah. Washington's the oldest team in the NHL. They got older here the last week.
Right.
Chara and Anderson. But I do think that they're older, but I also know Peter Laviolette's first year with the team is usually his best year.
Like what he is.
And he has a team that plays with jam, his favorite term, and I think that might be a really good mix for a short, one
especially
more year, maybe another year. Ovi's in the last year of his deal. I know he's going to come back, but there's motivation there. Pittsburgh, they made a whole bunch of changes, and they're going to go with the Jerry in goal. We'll see if Jerry can get it done. I mean, that's a bit of a risk, but. Yeah, one of those teams, though. I mean, I'm with you, Steele. I mean, I see the Islanders. The Rangers, to me, have some great young talent. It could take a little while to come together. But to me, I think their goaltending is going to really hold up. I don't know. I can't. I have a hard time finding 4 teams that are going to miss the playoffs from this division. But there will be 4 teams that will miss it. And just as an aside, guys, love having just a division. Top 4 make it, bottom 4 don't. I wish we could do this all the time. I know people say, but then you'll have a team, making in one division that has less points than a 5th place team.
So...
Life isn't fair, I like the fact that I can look at the standings and know that top 4 teams are in, the bottom 4 are out. I don't have to worry about wild card, this, that. It's just top 4 in, and then I love 1, 4, 2, 3 within the divisions. That's what we used to do in the old days. I'm showing my age, but the Smythe and Patrick days, those rivalries were never better because they were playing each other in the playoffs so much.
Yep.
I wish we could get back to that. I think it's a one-time thing, but I wish we could get back to that.
Yeah, I like the aspect of the normal now season where you get to see everybody come in, but I
do like that.
I like that, getting to see the Vegases and getting to see all those guys come in. But
I do too.
I love a rivalry game, guys. I mean, to to pummel the Penguins more times, that's always going to be good. So
Yeah, I mean, I think,
I like both for sure, but it'll be interesting to see how heated these players get.
yeah, I think you
Playing so
could
much.
go, Lance, to the schedule where you had only play the other teams in your conference that aren't in your division 1-1, as opposed
Yeah,
to 1-2,
I would
and
like
then
that.
flip those back into your own division. The key to me, though, is the playoffs. Just keep it within the divisions. And okay, you play the other teams. You might have a fifth place team in one division with more points than a fourth place team. Even as it was in last year's playoffs, you had teams in the Western Conference making that wouldn't have made it in the East or whatever. It's never going to be completely
Perfect.
fair. So
Yeah,
to me, to build it within the division, and so fans can just, I used to say, pick up their newspaper. Not anymore. Turn on their computers, see the standings, or pick up their phone, see the standings, and know, hey, if my team's in fourth place, it's in the playoffs. If it's in fifth place, it's out. And also, you know who to root for all year. I'm rooting against every team in my division all
yeah.
year, or any team that's close to us in the standings, and when they go outside the division. And I do agree with you. I don't want to see just playing within divisions. That's a one-time thing for sure.
Right.
But maybe you go 1-1 outside of your division in your conference, 1-1 from the West as well, and you throw that extra 4 or 5 games back in your division. You're playing all your teams maybe 5 times in your division as
Well,
opposed
I
to
was just going to
4.
say, well, think about it. If they
And then
play
just
56
simplify
games,
the playoffs.
yeah.
Simplify
But
the
if they play
playoffs.
56 games, they only need to add in what to get to 82.
Oh no, I'm not.
No, no,
Yeah,
no. What
they
I'm
would have.
saying is what I'm saying is keep the format the way it is now,
You
and
want to
then
play
the
7? I don't think you could play 8 games against in an 82. You obviously 56. What's that? That's 26 games, I guess you're. But
no. So the 26 games that you add in, those are the
right,
other teams that you
yeah, and
play.
that's
The
not enough. I mean, you're talking.
well, right.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking 20 as of next year. It'll be what, 24 teams to spread out over 32 games.
Yeah,
You can't do much there. So
yeah.
I think you'd have to cut it back. But still, if you're seeing teams in your division 5 times, all of them, that would be 35 games, right? And then you work on those other teams. And yeah, I do agree with you. I want to see Connor McDavid come to Philadelphia every year. I want to
Well,
see
yeah,
Jack. Well, they're in the division right now, but next year they won't be. Jack Eichel come
yeah.
to. You want to see that. I'm with you there. But as far as the playoffs, the standings, I wish they just go to top 4, make it, bottom 4 don't. It's easier to follow, and since you're playing a lot of games in your division, it's not that unfair. It really isn't.
Yeah. And you have plenty of opportunity, especially if you're playing 82 games to get the points.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And
I'll
if
step
you
off my soapbox now.
that's okay. No, no, no. That's quite all right. That's quite all right. We'll be more than happy to give you a platform to do it anytime. In fact, that's
I'd probably fall off the platform quick.
well, that's okay because you got a couple of old guys here that will be able to help you up too. So we're all good with that too.
Perfect.
There you go. Speaking of that, Jim, we'd love to have you back again, man. We'd love to
For
have you back
sure.
on.
Anytime.
Talk
Yeah, maybe
about
you'll let me
anything
get these
Flyers
games going.
hockey.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Listen,
Thank
you
you.
heard that, Steele, right? We got that on tape.
We
So
got that on. That's right. That's right.
he's
We
coming
got it
back.
already.
He's coming back.
We're gonna have to unfortunately hold you to that, Jim.
Right,
That's
right.
quite all right. I'm always willing to talk hockey. There's no
Listen,
doubt about
uh,
that.
thank you very much for doing the show. This has been really awesome. Why don't you tell the folks about the school that you started again, and how they can get to that and how they can get signed up for that.
Yeah, again, just send an email to jjbroadcastingcoaching@gmail.com. And in the email, give me a little information about your background, what you want to do in the profession. Nothing, it doesn't have to be some kind of formal letter, just a little information. I like to have a little bit of an idea before we start. But you send that email and asking for more information. We'll send you more information and how to sign up, and then away we go.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much. And we can follow you on Twitter at
Jim J. Philly. That's JimJPhilly.
awesome.
And I'm pretty reserved on Twitter, but I'll
Yeah,
throw some stuff out there.
that's okay.
I don't get on my soapbox on Twitter as much as I did here tonight.
That's okay. We'll be more than happy to have you. We'll get a box made with your name engraved right on it for you.
Gold leaf letters, whatever you need.
There you go.
I like it. I like it.
We'll get special shoes made so you can step in there and be all nice and comfy.
It works.
Oh boy, Lance, tell us the folks how we can get a hold of you, and you got some new articles coming out soon, yeah?
For sure, guys. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at LNGBASSIST, the number's 39, and catch all my articles on FlyersNittyGritty.com. Like I said, I should have a nice one coming out soon about Sam Moran, and who knows what else I'm going to come up with over the course of the week. So stay tuned to that.
Thanks very much. Jim, this has been an absolute pleasure. Lance, thank you very much for joining in. I'm your co-host, Steel Flyers. You can catch me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. You can check us out on the web at www.steelflyers.com/links/Hockey Writers Inc. This has been an awesome show. Can't thank you enough for being here, and can't thank you enough for joining us. Jim, the salute for being on the show. And we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Thank you all very much for joining us.
See you guys.
Peace.